This week, I sat down with two members of the House Judiciary Committee who grilled Attorney General Jeff Sessions on the Hill, Congressman Jim Jordan and Congressman Ron Desantis. They divulged some very interesting details about what's next in both the Dossier investigation and the Uranium One probe and what the president needs to do. Take a look. Thanks for being with us. I'll start with you, Congressman Jordan. Asked you some very general question. Did you get answers to the questions that you asked the Congress, asked the Attorney General?
No, the very first question I asked him is, did the FBI pay Christopher Steele, the author of the dossier? He said he couldn't answer that and wouldn't answer that. I mean, we have staff. We know who our staff are, and we know if they're on the payroll or not and how much they're getting paid. Did the FBI pay the guy who wrote the dossier? And at the same time that we know the Clinton campaign, the Democrat National Committee, were paying Fusion GPS to put together the dossier as well.
Why
did that happen?
Is that important?
Because we believe that they did. It's been reported that the FBI did. More importantly, if the dossier, and I think this is what took place, if the dossier became the basis, if they turned a Oppo Research National Enquirer type report into an intelligence document, took that to a FISA court in front of a federal judge and persuaded him that it was real intelligence, and that became the basis for spying on people associated with the Trump campaign, that is not supposed to happen in this country. It does not work that way.
Well, we already know it's big time a problem, Congressman DeSantis, because we have the Clinton campaign, the DNC, sending money to Perkins Coie, who then sends money to Fusion GPS, who then sends money to the person, Christopher Steele. Now, we know there are reports that not only did the FBI pay $50,000 to Steele, but that Steele has provided information and worked with the FBI previously. Now, if this is the basis for the FISA warrant, then what we've got is a kangaroo court, and we've got not just a primary on the Democratic side that was rigged, we also have an investigation that is rigged. How can we find out whether or not that Fusion report and Christopher Steele's dossier was the basis of a FISA warrant?
Well, I think what we need to do is ask the president to declassify the applications that the FBI used in order to get this surveillance during the campaign. And once we have that information, then we can know whether it was from the dossier or not. Congress has been trying to get this from the FBI for months now. They have fought us tooth and nail on that. And you have to ask yourself why. It's clearly something that Congress and the American people are concerned about. You can provide it in a classified setting if you're worried about that, but yet they fought us tooth and nail.
Okay, so is someone going to make a request to the president to declassify, and it's
Yes.
totally within his power?
Yes.
Yes, so we're working. We want to find a committee, maybe oversight, maybe judiciary, who's willing to get the members on board and then send the letter from the committee to the president. I think it will work.
Don't you think it's curious, Congressman Jordan, that, on the one hand, you have Jim Comey as the head of the FBI. He's running out saying, Hillary Clinton, I'm investigating her today, and I'm closing this investigation. I'm starting a new investigation. I'm closing that one. She's not guilty.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they can't tell us whether or not, they paid $50,000 to an individual who created a dossier we know about.
It took the head of the Intelligence Committee, the Speaker of the House, saying turn over the records before we could learn that the DNC and the Clinton campaign, which frankly are one and the same, we learned they were paying for the dossier. They were paying Fusion GPS. They weren't going to tell us that, and that, they were going to subpoena bank records. Suddenly, they find the Lord and give us that information. So Ron's exactly right. If we can, a letter to the president, say declassified. Let's let American people know if in fact this took place.
If it did take place, then we've got a false narrative created to not only destroy Donald Trump, but then we've got the FBI and the Democratic National Committee in cahoots so that they could destroy a Republican candidate for president. That's the kind of headline that this country has never seen.
And you have to ask yourself, why would the FBI have paid Steele if he was already compiling this for the Democrats? And I think one reason they may have, if they used it for the FISA, is they wanted to provide the FISA court with a cloak of respectability for the information.
And Judge, in support of that theory, think about what Comey did on January 6, 2017, when they went to the Trump Tower and met with President-elect Trump, briefed him on the intelligence situation, and then everyone leaves the room and Mr. Comey talks to him about the dossier. That gave the dossier legitimacy as well, because remember, all the press had this document. No one would print it because this is National Enquirer baloney. No one would print it. But now, to Ron's point, the FBI director took the time to have a special meeting with the president-elect to brief him on this dossier, and suddenly it gets leaked real quick after that meeting. Someone leaked it, and now it has respectability because the FBI director was important enough to talk to the president-elect. That is a big concern, and it fits right in with the theory that Congressman DeSantis just talked about.
And isn't it interesting that Jim Comey is such an important player in all of this?
Sure is.
You know, that we know that he has admitted to leaking things to a friend to go to the New York Times to seek a special counsel. And, you know, and then we find out that the Attorney General has these 27 active investigations into leakers. But let me back up a little bit. After the hearing, and I'll start with you, Congressman DeSantis, did you get a straight answer as to whether or not the Attorney General has recused himself regarding Uranium One?
We didn't, and I had...
You did not?
No, we did not. I had always assumed that he was recused because when he was confirmed by the Senate, his confirmation hearings, he told Senator Grassley of the Clinton matters, including the foundation. There hasn't been an official recusal, I don't think. So I'm not clear whether he's recused, but it makes a difference because if he doesn't think he needs to be recused, then you don't necessarily need a special counsel.
Let me read this to you. This is a statement on his recusal at the confirmation hearing. He says, I have decided to recuse myself from any existing or future investigations of any matters related in any way to campaigns for President of the United States. I have taken no actions regarding any such matters to the extent they exist. That has nothing to do with Uranium One. That has everything to do with the campaign. And yet, Congressman Jordan, when he was asked by you and Congressman Gates, it seemed that he didn't know whether he was or wasn't recused.
Yeah,
Did you get a straight answer?
Congressman Gates asked him specifically twice. Early in the questioning, the Attorney General indicated that he was not recused, had not recused himself from anything to deal with Uranium One. Later in the questioning, he says he wasn't sure. So I'm not exactly sure if the Attorney General knows the parameters of the recusal and what those all entail. And what he said in previous testimony, like in front of the United States Senate, I think he indicated in front of the United States Senate that things that deal with the Clinton Foundation, he felt he was recused from. So we're not sure where the line is. Again, all this underscores the fact.
Do you guys have the authority to call in all of those members of CFIUS who, according to my investigation, 7 of the 9 of them who approved the Uranium One deal had connections to the Clinton Foundation, to find out, put them under oath and find out what exactly their connections were to the foundation and whether they made any money off that foundation?
We have subpoena power.
Yeah, sure.
I think what we need to do, though, is we need to get all the documents from the informant. We need to subject him to a lot of questioning. A lot of that will be done outside of public view. We'll be with Congressman Jordan, myself, staff members, so that we're building the factual record. And then based off that, I mean, you know, Judge, you did this, figuring out who else we need to talk to. So I think some of those main principles I think are very relevant, but I think that would be towards the end once we have facts, because as you know, some of these folks, if they come and testify under oath, they're very slippery, and you got to have the facts to be able to confront them with. Otherwise, they'll say, well, I don't know this. So we don't want to let them do that. So we got a lot of work with the informant and that information. But yes, we can subpoena people.
This is not about getting back the other party. That should be the furthest thing. This is about equal treatment under the rule of law, plain and simple.
My thanks again to Congressman Jordan and DeSantis for that exclusive interview. Street justice is still ahead, and up next, the panel